Kyia is also available here throughout the day and at the end of the day for networking as well. I'm going to hand you your remote. So I learned my lesson, and I brought Kyia's bio up with me just in case. She actually would prefer to introduce herself, so we're going to let her do that. But I can't resist saying that Kyia is a great colleague at NCAIED. She travels a lot. She talks to people all the time about exporting, and she and Joanne Nota, who is the project director, are very hard at work. And as a two-person team, it's absolutely astonishing what they get accomplished. What was the size of that big contract that you guys helped facilitate? 35 million, right? Yeah, exactly. So they do a phenomenal job, and then last of all, I have to tell you, she's great for karaoke. We had so much fun. All right, here you go.
Dagoda. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyia Jackson, and I come from the St. Carlos Apache Nation out in Arizona. I'm so excited to be here with you all today and just kind of tell you what we do at our export center. So let's see. We're underneath the National Center for American Indian Enterprise Development. We kind of went over that throughout the day, but just a little bit of background on that. We launched our MBDA Export Center back in 2021. Both Joanne and I came on board on 2022, but there are other MBDA export centers out there. So there's 2 in Texas, San Antonio and Houston. And then we have 1 in Miami, Florida. Other close centers that we work with, MBDA Advanced Manufacturing Centers, we have those in Maryland, Connecticut, Kentucky, and then San Antonio as well. Also a procurement office in the DC area for MBDA. So our export center, what we do is we help minority-owned companies who are wanting to get into the global market, whether that's through products or services. Also, being underneath the National Center, we're able to be an advocate for all of Native communities. That includes in the lower 48, the Alaskan Native corporations, and then the Native Hawaiians. We're able to do this through different trainings like today, where we connect you with local resources, like we'll have the U.S. Commercial Service coming up soon to speak. I just hosted a webinar yesterday. We did that through our contact with the Mexican Canada, foreign trade, free trade agreement folks. And so they were able to talk on that topic. And then we brought in our client, the one who Jess had brought up. They're called the Akana Group. And so they were able to speak on how they utilize the Australian trade agreement. And so we do those monthly. Our next one will be July 17th or 19th. You can find my information in the back. Email me for the exact date. Other ones, you can find us always at Res. We have several different sessions pertaining to exporting. And then this past year, we were able to connect with the Canadian consulate out of LA and put on an indigenous to indigenous matchmaking between Canadian companies and then tribal entities and then tribal member-owned businesses during Res. And so that was really exciting. But I'm going to leave it to Jess to kind of go over what we did there. Other than that, you can find us with some of our other resource partners, which I'll go into. Let me see. So why export? Did you know that more than 95% of the world's consumers are outside the U.S.? So with the Biden administration, they realized that there was a deficit with exporting. So that's why they created these export centers, and there was a lot more focus into it, because we want U.S. companies, but I want minority companies, and then even kind of narrow it down, our Native American communities to be exporting. So they can grow your sales, diversify your incomes, give you a competitive advantage, and just overall job creation, which is really good for all of our communities. The services we offer, we do a wide variety of different things, mainly technical assistance. We do direct matchmaking, training and education, similar like today, and then connecting you with other National Center resources like our Apex accelerators, our other project managers. So we have other resources within the National Center, like our SBA groups, and then just assist with market research. Resource partners. So one of our resource partners that we brought today with is U.S. Commercial Services. We are based out, our headquarters are based out in Mesa, Arizona, so I work really closely with the Arizona team of U.S. Commercial Services, and they help in so many ways. If you guys ever need any information whatsoever about exporting, you can go to their website at www.trade.gov, but I will let Olga talk more about U.S. Commercial Services. Another one that we have is the Export-Import Bank of the U.S. I know it says import in there, but they mainly just work with exporting, and they are a resource when it comes to insurance-wise, when it comes to exporting. But other close people we work with, we had another speaker today from the Small Business Development Center. They have an export program. He was unable to join us today, but Olga will also speak a little bit on what he does and what their relationship is like. We work closely with the SBAs. So SBA has a program called the STEP Grant, which helps small businesses who are looking to get into export or already exporting. It varies, though, from state to state, so I didn't get a chance to look at Virginia's information, but you can find more information on the SBA.gov website. Here is Joanne's contact information, my contact information, and then just our office contact information. But I'm going to turn it over to Jess so she can talk a little bit about what we did with the Canadian Consulate, or Canadian Embassy of Canada.
Here's all this for me. Okay, just Zoom. Hi. So wanted to chat a little bit about our relationship and a great business matchmaking event that we did with the U.S. Commercial Service, actually based out of the American Embassy in Ottawa, Canada. So for those of you who came to our DC event, I'm sure you remember that and the business matchmaking that we had the following day after the Institute. But just to give you a little background on kind of how that happened and what we did, they actually reached out to us, which was fabulous, right? They were putting together a trade mission called the Can-Arctic Trade Mission, and this particular event was focused not just on Canadian Indigenous businesses, but specific to the far north, right? Because doing business in the far north, as our Alaskans in the room will tell you, can look a little bit different, right? There are unique challenges. We have a lot of rural businesses here in the lower 48, rural in the far north, rural in Alaska, it's a little bit different, right? Different things that we have going on. So they reached out to us and said, hey, we've got this trade mission, we'd love to meet with you. And I said, well, hey, I'm on like day 2 of a new job, but thanks for calling. Let's talk. And it just so happened that we were able to schedule to have our event in conjunction with theirs. And so we have these contacts within the U.S. Commercial Service. We're able to help facilitate some of those connections because, as Olga is going to tell you in a little bit, the U.S. Commercial Service is committed to helping our American businesses to export and to do business elsewhere. So, should you want connections to those specific folks from that embassy, we're happy to do that. The other thing that we're happy to help with is, let's say you're looking for another connection. Maybe we don't necessarily already have that relationship established, but we're happy to help reach out. Right? At the beginning of the day, I talked about one of the big things that we do is simply to build bridges, just to make those connections and try to help you get the resources that you need. So if we don't have the existing relationship, we're happy to be a facilitator, right? Sometimes those cold calls can be a little intimidating, but when you ask us to do that for you, you're not just making the connection, you're also tapping into the National Center's resources so that we can support you throughout your work and to build those relationships. So that was a great business matchmaking event, and I'm not sure you probably already said it, but I want to emphasize one of the big things that came out of that is that exporting and making these connections is not just goods, right? It's not just physical items, because we had a lot of people kind of asking in advance, well, what I do is services, so maybe this isn't the right event for me. What do I have to offer if I'm not selling things that you need in the far north, right? If you're not making warm clothing, right, or survival gear, what's the relationship? But services are such an important export area, right? If you have a consulting business, you could be an exporter, right, of those professional services as well. Is there anything else you wanted me to highlight from that event, or?
No, but you jogged my memory of something.
Yeah, okay, and then I'll let Kyia introduce Olga, and we'll invite her up to the front of the room to speak as well. Thanks, Kyia.
Okay, so how we kind of got connected with the Canadian Embassy was through Select USA. Have you guys ever heard Select USA? Okay, so it's really big, and it's international. So they have it out in DC, and they highlight all of the states, and we have representatives from all over the world to attend. And so the states are exhibiting their state, basically. They're like, come work with us. And so with the National Center, we wanted to go there and represent tribal nations. And so each year we make more connections. Past year, we were able to bring out 3 different tribes to come and speak on, similar to what Chief Ann did today, where she gave an overview of the economics of her tribe. So we did that with other tribes, and we want to do more of that, and we want to highlight their enterprises, their corporations, and not just the tribes, but the members, their own individual businesses. And so that's what we are wanting to do with Select USA. But we made that connection with them, and there's so much opportunity out there for Indian country to start exporting, and that's what we want to support. And so through Select USA, that's how we're able to do it. Let me see, what else? There was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot. But I'll bring up Olga now so she could get into what the U.S. Commercial Service does. And they are in over 100 cities worldwide, not worldwide, 100 cities in the U.S., almost in every major city in state. And then she can probably tell you how much countries you guys are represented in it as well. But here's one of our resource partners. Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, so Olga comes from the U.S. Commercial Services with over 15 years of experience in connections in international trade, foreign direct investment, international economics, commercial diplomacy, and U.S. economic development. In her previous role as Vice President of Business Development for the Greater Richmond partnership, Olga promoted Richmond and the Commonwealth at large as the best location in country for international businesses. In her current role at the U.S. Commercial Service, part of the U.S. Department of Commerce International Trade Administration, Olga assists companies that are new to exporting or expanding to new markets by offering them a full range of expertise in international trade. Olga is a graduate of the Virginia Commonwealth University, where she obtained her master's degree in urban and regional planning program, while also earning her public management certificate. And we have Olga.
Thank you so much. Okay, how does this thing? Yeah. How does this? Okay. Perfect. Well, thanks so much, Kyia. Thanks again for inviting me to speak here today. This is my first time presenting to the audience, so I'm very excited, and I hope that we'll continue our partnership. And again, I'm here as a resource for you going forward. So as Kyia mentioned, my name is Olga Molnar. I am the International Trade Specialist with the U.S. Commercial Service. I'm based in Richmond, Virginia, what we call a U.S. Export Assistance Center. So I'm a standalone office. What we say, we have two offices in Virginia, one in Arlington, one in Richmond, and we divide it, geographically. So I cover like the Hampton Roads area, Eastern Virginia, as well as Southwest Virginia, and our office in Arlington covers our DC area and Northern Virginia. So as Kyia was mentioning, we do have offices across the country in pretty much every major city, in all the states. And depending on your location, your headquarters location, that's how your company gets assigned to us. So you'll hear someone's, if we ask you, okay, where are you headquartered, that helps us determine who should be your point of contact locally, because we want to be close to you and, provide that personal assistance. So I am here locally, just for any of you that are based here. So Kyia, again, she kind of started like, why exports matter. I'm not sure how many of you export or do international trade at this point, but hopefully with this presentation, at least I'll pique your interest and you'll give it some thought. So, more than 70% of purchasing power, global purchasing power, is located outside of the United States. So that's one of the reasons why you should think about international trade to begin with. However, when it comes to GDP, in the United States, only 11% of GDP is generated by exports. And when you look at this map, like Germany, 47% come from export. Our friends in Canada, 31%. So United States is really, really lagging behind other countries and other nations when it comes to exporting. United States is one of the largest consumer markets in the world, obviously. I feel a lot of companies feel there are plenty of opportunities here domestically, but again, there are many, many opportunities located outside of the United States. Some reasons why you should think about exporting. Companies that export, they grow faster, and they are less likely to go out of business because it provides you with some, stability. That's where the money is. Again, about 96% of the U.S. world population is located outside of the U.S., and that's where the people are, and that's where the growth is happening and will be happening in the future. Another reason, I think internationally U.S. has a very good reputation, and a lot of countries and businesses want to do business with the U.S. You probably see a lot, like now, companies that manufacture, do services in U.S., they'll say made in USA. And I think that brings a lot of leverage when we get reached out by international businesses. They want to made in U.S. products. They want to do business with U.S. companies because there is a reputation that these products or services, they're reliable, they are durable, they are safe. There is high business ethics in this country. So international companies feel very comfortable doing business with the U.S. businesses, maybe unlike some other countries. But the reality is that less than 5% of small and medium enterprises, they export. And those that export, 58 just sell to one market. So there is still a lot of room to grow and a lot of work that we need to accomplish. And if you are not exporting currently, most likely your competitors are exporting or at least thinking about that. And, when you export, you increase your portfolio, you diversify it. Again, you bring a little bit of more growth and stability to your company. And also another misconception that we hear a lot, companies think that you have to be maybe a large corporation to export, right? It's kind of, the process itself may seem intimidating. It does require lots of resources. It does require some effort, but it can be done by any company. I work with a number of companies that are maybe just a startup or one person company, or maybe they just have 5 employees and they're already exporting. So just don't think that exporting is only available to large corporations. A majority of our customers are small businesses, and that's what I wanted to highlight. There are more than 32,000 exporters in the U.S., and about 85% of those are small and medium enterprises. So again, majority of them are small businesses. And last fiscal year, we helped generate companies about $2.2 million in revenues. So companies that export see increase. And also we help support around 625,000 jobs and more than $467 billion in exports. Also, your return on investment, we're a federal agency. I'll talk a little bit about that more, but our return on investment is $1 for every $360 that we receive. So, we have something to back our efforts. One new program that I wanted to highlight quickly is our Global Diversity Export Initiative. This is a new initiative created by White House, and this program is specifically targeted towards underserved communities, rural businesses, women-owned, LGBTQ, disabled, veteran, Native. So we're at the U.S. Commercial Service are trying to be a little bit more proactive, and that's why I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak today and reach out to those businesses that, traditionally maybe have been overlooked or haven't received all the resources they need. So with this initiative, we're just trying to be a little bit more proactive from the federal government perspective and U.S. Commercial Service. And that kind of is important because when you look at statistics, right, the number of minority businesses that are exporting are severely underrepresented compared to non-minority businesses. And when you break that down a little bit more by race or ethnicity, you can see the gap is even bigger. So I think that's why it's so important for this initiative. And that's why we're trying to be, again, so active and in working with these businesses and in making sure that they have all the resources that they need. So now I quickly will shift gears and speak about U.S. Commercial Service, who we are, kind of the services that we offer, and how you can utilize us. So we are one of the agencies within the U.S. Department of Commerce. As you can see, MBDA is one of them, as well as Economic Development Administration and Bureau of Economic Analysis. So we are International Trade Administration. However, I would be remiss to say that we do this all by ourselves. We do have a number of great partners and other state and federal agencies that we rely upon in providing our services. Kyia mentioned Select USA. So Select USA is also Department U.S. Commercial Service Bureau one within the U.S. Commercial Service. However, the difference between Select USA and us is Select USA is in charge of foreign direct investment. So they are helping states, and tribal nations to ensure that the foreign direct investment comes to their specific locality. And also they are promoting U.S. as a preferred location as a country for foreign direct investment in general, because there is a lot of competition. For now, United States is still #1 destination for foreign direct investment, but, our hope is that we'll stay like that for a while, but there is a lot of competition, and competition is increasing. So that's why the purpose and the goal of Select USA is to encourage foreign direct investment into the United States. We work very closely with them, and usually we're on the local level are being asked to help with FDI projects as well. But there is that resource available for you as well if you're interested in bringing foreign direct investment to your backyard. There are many other agencies. For example, within the U.S. Commercial Service, we have a Bureau of Industry and Analysis. That's the compliance. You hear a lot about export regulations. That's not us. That would be our sister agency, but we can definitely help you with making introductions. And of course, on the local level, there are many resources through chambers, universities, economic development organizations, etc., that are here as a resource for you as well. So internationally, we're located in more than 70 countries around the world. We are located most of the time with the U.S. embassies. In some instances, we have separate offices. Where we don't have a presence, we partner with the State Department, and we work with their economic office to provide assistance. And this is the location of where our offices are. Again, our mission and goal is to help U.S. businesses export through our global network and our resources. And we're very results driven. Unlike some other federal agencies, we have specific goals and metrics that we have to meet. We're very client facing. That's why we're located in cities across the country, because our job is to be where the businesses are. The services that we offer can be grouped into like 4 major buckets, I would say. One of them being export counseling, market intelligence, business matchmaking, and commercial diplomacy. I'll go through them in a little bit more detail so you can kind of get an idea of the services that we do offer. So export counseling, this is usually the first step, right? If you never exported in your life and you're just curious to learn about the process, or maybe some of the challenges or things you need to be aware of, I would highly encourage you to reach out to any of us. And this is also a good time to bring in my colleague from SBDC, Erin, who couldn't be here. We really work closely, at least I in Virginia work really closely with Erin, especially when it comes to counseling new to export companies. Because whether it's a product, like I said, or a service, you can export those, but you need to be aware of certain rules and regulations. So you don't get a knock on the door, not from us, another agency. But anyways, that's our job, to kind of provide you with that information and give you all the resources so you are prepared. So even now, if you are not exporting and you think you'll never export in your life, but I've spoken to so many businesses. If you have a website, you're probably doing business international already, right? Anyone can find you. Where a company receives a call from New Zealand and they want to buy their product or service, they get super excited and they ship it. Somehow then they call me and they say, well, this product is being shipped, and I ask them about export compliance and regulations. If they looked whether they need a license, they said no. What license? It's something we just shipped it. It's a drone. I'm like, well, first of all, you can't ship anything just willy-nilly. You need to really be aware of all the regulations. And one company, they literally had something sitting in the warehouse, and I said, you cannot ship anything. Stop shipping. You need to ensure you don't need an export license, because if you do, and the federal agency finds out, they will come after you. And there are penalties, prison sentences, but it doesn't usually come to that. But that's our kind of job, because these companies, again, they do business, right? You sell all the time, and it doesn't even occur to them that selling to Canada, it's an international market. They say, well, we don't export, we just sell to Canada. Well, Canada is a foreign country, so you are exporting, or Mexico. Or it's a service, so we just send some file. Well, if even sending over internet something over email, you may need to have an export license for that. So that's kind of where export counseling we come in and say, okay, even before you start exporting, there are certain things you need to be aware of. So when you get that call and you get super excited, you kind of hopefully keep in the back of your mind that there are resources available for you. E-commerce is another, right? Everyone does trade on internet right now. You're selling your products, services. Again, most of the time, 95% of the services or products do not need the export license agreement or like export licenses, but certain products do. However, we do have a number of resources for e-commerce. We have a strategic partnership with Amazon, for example, and we have lots and lots of webinars helping you to sell over the internet as well. This is our website, trade.gov. If you haven't been on it, I would encourage you to go to this website. Again, these are some of the resources that we have, and it's kind of a nice guide. It can walk you through, like, are you new to exporting, or have you exported? Do you have a specific question? Our website has a ton of information. I use it as Google. I just do keyword search, and it, shows up all the information. A little bit, once the company, is ready to export, we go a little bit deeper into market intelligence and saying, okay, you've had some interest from this market, or you don't know which market you may be selling to, and we can kind of guide you through that. We do have a lot of information on the website, as I mentioned, but specifically country commercial guides. So, for example, if you are interested in selling to Canada or Mexico, we have a country commercial guide for those countries, and they provide information on what products maybe are in demand in that market, or what regulations exist, or how to do business in that country. So it's more like geared towards businesses versus, you're visiting that country. Our bread and butter is business matchmaking. That's where I think we're are the strongest. We provide that through usually, like, we will attend a trade show and we'll bring foreign delegations with us, and that's usually the easiest way for businesses to meet with potential buyers or agents at those trade shows, and you don't even have to travel internationally. So usually we have colleagues at any major trade show. A lot of them are in Las Vegas, as you can imagine, and if it's a certified trade mission, we'll usually bring foreign delegations. So we'll recruit agents or buyers from all over the world and bring them, and companies have an opportunity to meet with them there. But also, a lot of times, companies will reach out to us saying, we'll be, like, again, in Mexico or Canada, we're trying to find a distributor or agent in that country. Can you help us? And we'll pre-set up those appointments for you. We'll pre-qualify those businesses, and you'll have a chance to meet either virtually or in person. And that's our Gold Key service, one of the best-known services. Again, trade events, we put a lot of trade events. We have trade delegations that we take with us to different markets. For example, we just had an education trade mission to India, but we also have a lot of trade events called Discover Global Markets, and they're happening on the local level. So that's kind of the reverse, where we bring the foreign buyers to United States, and we have those matchmaking sessions there. Finally, many companies don't realize, but commercial diplomacy is one of services that we offer, especially when it comes to tenders. So a lot of companies, for example, if you are bidding on an international tender, it's a public tender, we can help you and advocate on behalf of you. So we have this advocacy program. It's free. If you meet the requirements, you can apply for it. And then we kind of represent you in the tender and make sure that, there are no shady business happening in that country or anything illegal, and that you are given a chance. And we are actually encouraging those foreign governments to do business with U.S. businesses. So we are kind of your cheerleader on the ground and ensuring that you have a fair chance in that tender. So that's something that we do as well. Another great resource for you if you're doing, like, government procurement and interested in doing some international procurement, United Nations and World Trade Bank, they have a number of procurement opportunities for small businesses. And a lot of my clients, I encourage them to check those out, because that's kind of sometimes an easy way to get into international trade. And that's available publicly. We also can assist with kind of navigating that process a little bit. Just some quotes from some of our clients. Again, many businesses don't know we exist and that resources are available, but we are here to support you. Some just impact on the state level. Again, we supported over 78,000 jobs in Virginia, and we work with more than 5,270 companies that sell internationally. Again, some other resources for you. We're not the only agency. MBDA, again, they are a great resource. We work closely with the U.S. Export-Import Bank. We work with SBA, SBDC. All of those are a resource. Also on this state level, of course, there is Virginia Economic Development Partnership. They have a very strong international trade program as well. We don't have any grants, unfortunately, but VEDP, they manage a STEP grant that's available to companies interested in international trade. They can, even help you with your website redesign if you're interested in that, or they have grants to cover some of your travel expenses. So that's available. But also, there are some other resources available, number of videos and information that if you're just curious to learn more about exporting, I would encourage you to do that. And finally, that's kind of the end of my presentation. My contact is here as well as my colleagues in Arlington. Again, I'm excited to be here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or a representative in your state. We'll be happy to chat with you and answer any questions. So with that, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Jess.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, no, so quick show of hands, how many people are already exporting? Really? Okay. How many people are thinking about it now? Yeah, right? Okay, so I think it's great that we have you here. We have the resource partners. We can facilitate those connections. There are a couple of other things that I wanted to highlight about export. The first is security clearances, right? And your relationships with these businesses. So in my experience, if you have a security clearance, you're already pretty aware of what the potential impacts are, being mindful of your travel, all of those relationships. So something to keep in mind. Like I said, if you have one, you probably know this. If you don't have one now and you're getting one in the future, just kind of be mindful, right? What are the potential ramifications or effects there? And then the second thing that I wanted to note is sometimes with export, there may be native business specific considerations. So a long time ago, we don't need to talk about how many years, I did an internship at the World Trade Center in Anchorage, Alaska, because I'm also from Alaska, and I know we have Akiak and Ninilchik in the room, which is great. So in that internship, a lot of what we were focusing on is what are the specific rules, because there may be highly specific rules for export. And mainly I was working with walrus ivory and Kyia, trying to figure out what are the rules, and also woolly mammoth and mastodon ivory, right? So just as a for instance, can you sell and export mastodon or woolly mammoth ivory? What do you think? Actually, because they've been extinct for so long, mastodon and woolly mammoth are generally easier to sell, right? And then for walrus, do you already know what the rules are for walrus ivory?
Only if you're native.
Native, and I think it's 1/4?
At least 1/4.
At least 1/4, right? And there can be some specific rules about signatures and, right? There's a lot that goes into it. So I just want to point out that particularly for native businesses that you might need to look into this, right? You might need to learn a little bit about your products and if there are limitations, and like with the ivory, there's a difference between selling it domestically versus internationally, right? And it can get complicated. So take the time to learn about that in advance, because this is not one of those situations where you want to get forgiveness instead of permission. That's not the approach here for that one.
One thing I did, sorry, one thing I wanted to mention, because we're talking about exporting. I heard like some of you, travel and tourism. That's one thing, one industry that we're also very active, and people don't think exporting for travel and tourism, but international tourists and students are considered an export. So we have a very active travel and tourism team. So for any of you that are maybe in travel and tourism industry, if you're thinking of attracting international tourists or maybe agents, that's one thing that we work with as well. We can bring, the marketing partners. There is actually an event happening, not put by us, but Power Partnership, I believe in October in Richmond. We're trying to bring a lot of minority and underserved travel and tourism organizations, just, hence the name Power Partnership, to create awareness, right, of maybe some areas that are not as well known to tourists or something. So if that's also something you're interested in, we do have a travel and tourism team, and we try to be kind of helpful in that sense as well. And also education, but I don't think there are educational institutions representatives here, so just one thing.
Great, thank you so much. So we've got a couple of minutes. Questions for Kyia or Olga? What would you like to know? Is that something we can share?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, so for anything that we're able to share, we will send out that link after the event so that everybody can have access to it. We're recording it. That streaming link will be available. Yeah. What else? Yes?
So I guess I have a question. So we are working with, or have been working with, the South Sudanese community.
Uh-huh.
Getting ready to develop a school. So I haven't, everything that I've had to do so far has been locally, because I do it here with the U.S. Embassy, the South Sudanese ambassador and things here. But next year, we're having to go because we're implementing plans. Would that get into any challenges when it comes to exports? I mean, I'm providing a service. I never thought about a service as an export.
Yeah, so even like consulting, right?
Right.
Think of an export, anytime you're getting paid, money comes from other country, comes to U.S., right? You're being paid by, yeah, or like if like someone in Sudan is paying for your services and the money is coming to your account in U.S., that's an export. Whether you're a consultant, again, the same like goes well with tourists or international students, right? They are coming here, which is reverse logic, but because the money is coming from the outside, it's an export. With services, it's not as, like usually no export licensing is required unless you're like in military or, like highly sensitive areas or dual use. For example, if you're consulting on, construction of a maybe plane or submarine, then yes, it gets a little bit trickier. But most of the time, if you're just going there and consulting, doesn't need you don't need any specific requirements, regulations. You can still check on that, but you're able to go there just ensuring then from your end, like getting paid, right? And then we also encourage, anytime my clients are in the country, I say, hey, introduce to our embassy there if we have a representative so they know they're here, that you are there, not the State Department, but economic, because in case you run into any challenges or maybe non-payment issues, we can help you. Or we get a lot of requests from, these scam emails where you receive an email saying, oh, we're from this country and we want to do business with you, we'll transfer $1 million to you, like come and... And what we can do through our embassy, we can check the legitimacy of that company and say, well, that company is not legit. Like, don't do business with them. Like, don't send them any money. So yeah. So I think you're safe. But yes, if you go and serve, then you would be an exporter, even though you're just offering consulting.